Hello and welcome to another edition of the Hitting the Hardwood podcast, your home for all the latest Minnesota Lynx and WNBA news, analysis, and coverage. Thank you for tuning into another episode. I'm your host, Mitchell Hansen, and we are back. We have WNBA basketball to talk about, actual regular season games here. Regular season tips off May 8th. And for the Minnesota Lynx, if you're a Minnesota Lynx fan listening, regular season tips off May 10th at Target Center. But man, it seems like it's been a long time coming, but here we are. We have the WNBA back, and let's hit the ground running and let's get this thing going. Obviously, the preseason as a result is over. Final rosters are being announced as we speak, and it's finally here. I'm at a loss for words because I didn't think that we would. To be honest with you, I did not think we were going to start a WNBA season on time. I didn't think that we would. I thought there would be some sort of delay. I don't know if it would have been a couple weeks, a month, whatever it may be. But I will be the first to admit I did not think it was going to start on time. But the players, the league, they were able to work things out. They were able to get that CBA deal done, and we jam-packed whole off season's worth of stuff in the matter of about 3 weeks, and here we are. So it's have you? I hope you're keeping up because it's been hard to keep up with everything that's happened. Whether it's moves during free agency, obviously the draft, just different roster moves that have been made throughout training camp and leading up to the WNBA season. It's been wild, but at the same time, as a fan, it's a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun, and this is what you love is to see the offseason movement and the player movement and the excitement around the WNBA season leading up to the new year. So, as you can expect, or as you've been able to expect, year round, you'll be able to find my personal work by finding me on any social media platform. I'll be writing at Winsider this year as a senior writer. Once again, I'll be doing links coverage at Canis Hoopus. And then obviously the hitting the hardwood stuff. We earlier this offseason we launched our brand new website, hittingthehardwood.com. Myself, Terry Horseman, and Andrew Dukowitz are teaming up to do that. We are hiring some contributing writers. So it's exciting time for hitting the hardwood. I will admit I did not expect this to ever happen. But man, I'm so happy that we were able to do this, and I'm so happy that you guys want this coverage and you like the coverage that we provide. So you can find that all season long. Once again, that's hittingthehardwood.com. You can follow me on social media for all the other stuff I had mentioned. I can't believe this is year 11 for me, which is also hard to believe. It makes me feel old. It makes me feel, I would say wise, but I don't know if we're going to go that far. But I love doing this every single year, and it's hard to believe that it's year 11 already. But I owe a big thank you to all of you guys, you guys listening, everybody that reads, everybody that follows and interacts with me on social media. Couldn't do it without you guys. You're the reason I do this, and I appreciate everything that you guys do, all the kind words that you provide, and just following along, reading the stuff, listening to this podcast and our other podcast under the Hitting the Hardwood Network, and we do it because we want to provide you guys coverage. We think you deserve this. We want to do this, and we enjoy doing this. I know I speak for myself, Andrew Dukowitz, and Terry Horseman too. We all have other jobs. We have day jobs, and we do this on the side. And the reason we do it is because we love doing it, and we want to provide this coverage to all of you guys. So thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for listening. Thank you for reading. Thank you for interacting, following, whatever it may be. We couldn't do this without you guys. So enough of the kind of the I don't know, mushy stuff. Let's talk about basketball. Um, this week, or in this the new episode, I'm honored to be joined by a guest I've had on once before. But ever since I had her on one other time, I wanted to have her back on because she is such a fascinating person to listen to, and honestly, one of the nicest people you could ever interact with. That being LaChina Robinson, formerly of ESPN. And we'll talk about that where she is at now, and what she's been up to lately. But LaChina is outstanding, not only outstanding at what she does, but she does a great job covering the game. She's extremely knowledgeable, but as I mentioned, she's just a very nice, down to earth, kind human being, and that's what I appreciate most. So, without further ado, let's jump right into the podcast with the one and only LaChina Robinson. LaChina Robinson, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Mitchell. I mean, we have a WNBA season
We
about to
do.
kick off. I get to talk to you, so life is pretty good right now.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. I speaking of your life, I want to jump right into it because you've had a lot going on as of late. But could you just kind of explain to everybody what you've been up to, what you got coming up, and where people can see you this year?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'm super, super excited as I have made some changes here in the last couple of months, but I made the difficult decision after 16 years to leave ESPN. That's probably where people remember me and know my coverage to live. And I'm even thinking out loud to myself right now, this is my 19th season of WNBA coverage, but my first year covering WNBA on ESPN, my assignment was you're going to be in Minnesota 2011
Okay, good
covering the
year.
draft because
Yep.
there's going to be a pretty big pick happening there. So that's where I was for my draft assignment. I was in Minneapolis, which was pretty cool. But yeah, after 16 years of doing a lot of incredible work around building the women's college basketball game and WNBA, I decided to step away from ESPN, and I am going to miss my colleagues dearly. I had a blast, so many great memories, but I just felt like it was time for a change. And with the new media rights deal, there are some other players at the
Hmm.
table when it comes to WNBA, which I know we're all pumped about. I think the number's like 216 nationally televised games this summer. And so I have signed to work for NBC Sports, which I will be a studio host on majority of Mondays, some Sundays. And I am also going to be working with Amazon Prime as a game analyst on Thursday night broadcast. So should be a fun summer.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. First of all, congratulations. That
Thank
that is
you.
great. I know we were talking about before we started recording that you've been working nonstop around the clock for many years. So this is hopefully a good change, a good kind of work-life balance type of situation, and
Yeah,
people still get to
yeah.
see you, which is great.
Yeah, I worked college basketball for the first 15 years of my career and decided to leave college after the Final Four in 2021. So that was kind of the first layer of, okay, traveling year round.
Hmm.
It was like for that long. I'm a million miler, Delta 360. I was like, I don't know how long I can sustain that as I'm getting older. So that was kind of the first step back. And I did that because I wanted to invest more in the W. I saw the W platform growing, but also to your point, having a true off season
Hmm.
is great. And I am putting a lot into my summers, working for two networks, being in two different cities a week. So it's definitely a change of pace that I think fits me holistically at this point in my career.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have, and I'm sorry I'm putting you on the spot here, but do you have a favorite memory or maybe a favorite couple memories of your time at ESPN that initially come to mind?
Yeah, oh my goodness. So my first national broadcast on ESPN, which actually might have been my first broadcast for them ever, was the Maggie Dixon Classic in
Mm.
2009. It was in Madison Square Garden, and it was Tennessee Lady Vols with Pat Summitt still at the helm and Vivian playing Vivian Stringer when she was at Rutgers. And the second game of the doubleheader, I called both, was Brittany Griner in her either freshman or sophomore year. And I think they were playing Boston College. I was like, are y'all sure this is my assignment? Because I had only had a cup of coffee in this business at that point and couldn't believe that I was on such a big game on such a big platform. So that was kind of the entry point. And then, oh my gosh, so many great memories. I mean, I covered the Maya Moore shot against the Fever. I
Hmm.
was there for that, which I thought was the loudest game that I had ever covered until, as you and I just talked about, Williams Arena a few
Hmm.
years after that,
Yep.
and just how incredible that environment was. I would say that whole rivalry was just one of the best times of my career. Like the
Hmm.
Minnesota Lynx and LA Sparks felt like a lifetime, even though it was only like a few years of a rivalry. But yeah, I've had just those are just a few, and I know your audience will
Yeah.
definitely be able to remember those days. But I have had covering the Final Four for the first time on the broadcast. That was a dream. Sitting at the draft table with Ryan and Rebecca, and at that time, Kira Lawson when I first started. So
Hmm.
there were a lot of, Cheryl Reeve being short with me during my interviews. All those things contribute
No.
all of that contributes to a very wholesome experience.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, those years and that rivalry was
Yeah,
unlike anything. I mean, it was just it seemed like well, and it was for that stretch of time that it seemed like every single year it was just inevitable. It was going to come down to the Lynx and Sparks, and it's still to this day. The personnel is completely different on both sides, but it's still there. You can still tell
there's some
whenever LA
tension.
comes to town, when Minnesota goes to LA,
Yeah,
it's there's something there. But no,
yeah,
that's the beauty of basketball. That's incredibly great for the game to have those types of rivalries and those types of battles back and forth because that's what makes our that's what makes the game so great, and that's what makes us look back on the years and think fondly of the times that we did have. Um,
absolutely.
but no, again, congratulations. I'm very happy
Thank
for you
you.
and looking forward to seeing your coverage again this year and
Thank
just
you.
just in a new form, which is all right. But
Yeah, all right.
looking at well, before we actually get into the basketball, there's been a lot that's happened over the offseason with obviously the CBA stuff, uncertainty of the season actually starting at all or on time.
Yeah.
What is your thought, first of all, on the CBA that was agreed upon and just how big and how groundbreaking it is for women's basketball and the WNBA?
You often hear like, will the process, even though it has been just so tough and such an arduous task, like, will the end result be worth the process?
Hmm.
And that's what I think we saw with the CBA. Like, there was a lot of drama, there were late night meetings, there was the thought that we might not have a WNBA season or it might be late. There were so many things swirling around, but it was definitely worth the price when you look at how transformational the CBA truly, truly is. I mean,
Hmm.
the increase in salary is like, wow, right?
Hmm.
This is what these women have deserved for a very long time. And while I thought that they could get here, I did not see it happening all in one jump the way it
Right.
has, right? And I know that they've talked about this last CBA setting them up for this. But we honestly didn't see the WNBA or women's basketball making the monumental jump that it has in general
Hmm.
that really leads to this because it has to be a money trail, right? There has to be revenue generated, ticket sales, viewership. Like people have to really see the value in the sport for us to get to a transformational CBA. And you can go back to college basketball and, Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and all the things that kind of have fed into it. But the WNBA has been growing over time. But I mean, the leap that it's taken over the last couple of years, I think those numbers definitely justify what we're seeing in the CBA. And I'm just really, I admire the players
Hmm.
and their courage to stand on business, to say we're not taking anything less, and to stay at the table and ultimately get everything that they wanted and everything that they deserve. So there are other aspects of the CBA that I love, including giving some kickback to the
Hmm.
vets that have retired and some other things. But yeah, I mean, the salary is what we've been hearing about for so long. And I feel like it was also a barrier of acceptance. Like people were like, oh, I get paid more than WNBA players. Why would I
Yeah.
watch them?
Yep.
And so I think that is another layer that now they don't have to worry about.
And that too, it also I'm curious to how much it's going to impact the international game or even just the off seasons. Obviously, we have Unrivaled now, where a lot of players are staying within the states anyway, if this is their home country. But in years past, we've seen players that they get done immediately with the WNBA season, and 2 days later they're going overseas and spending it over there until training camp. and
Yeah.
it's just nonstop around the clock. Where now, I mean, you'll still see some players doing that, but now they don't have to. They
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 have a
can they can
choice.
stay here. They can focus on resting their bodies and
Yeah.
maybe staying with their families, and it's so good with in so many different aspects. And the
Yeah.
compensation alone is obviously phenomenal, and it's well deserved.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's oh,
I
go
was
ahead.
talking to Candace Parker. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I
No,
was
you're
talking
good.
to Candace Parker the other night, and she was mentioning how, like, her daughter Layla literally grew up in Russia,
Hmm.
because that's where she was in her off seasons. And those decisions that you just talked about, like having the option of staying home and spending time with family, whether it's a wedding or your mom's birthday, or
Hmm.
all the things that they've had to miss over time because they're in season year round. Now they can make a living in just one season. And something we also used to talk about a lot with the W was players staying in market in the off season in order to build the fandom.
Yeah.
So it didn't help the growth of the sport that the WNBA was here, then all the players disappeared for
Hmm.
6 months until the next season. So you didn't get the proper promotion or the marketing or all those intersections of lifestyle and culture and fashion and all of that with WNBA players being overseas. So yeah, and especially the climate of our world right now, like them having being able to make the decision for themselves is a big.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Kayla McBride, she when not this past off season, but the year prior, the first Unrivaled season when she was playing there, she had talked about how she was able to stay home for Thanksgiving. She was able to be with her family during the holidays, and she's never had to do or been able to do that before. With the exception being like high school or maybe even college or whatever. But as a
Yeah.
pro, she hasn't been able to stay home and be with her family in those moments. She would always FaceTime them or, call them around the holidays. But you don't really think of that in like the casual fan doesn't, necessarily know that that's happening or realizing that is happening.
Mhm.
But it is just it's been grueling for a lot of these players, and I couldn't imagine doing it. I mean, even with day-to-day job, like everybody needs time off, and these players are not taking any time off at all.
Yeah.
And even between games, like during the WNBA season, it's nonstop. They're in the gym. Even if you're not playing, you're in the gym basically, and
Yeah.
it's a tough thing. But I'm glad that they're getting proper compensation. There's still room to grow, and I think obviously that
Yes.
that'll come. But
Yes. Yes.
it's been great to see a lot of the numbers and just the information that's coming out around the new CBA. And also, another aspect I personally love is the developmental spots, the two developmental
Yes.
spots that the league added for each team. I think that will be huge because that's something that we've been talking about forever. I mean, you even look at the draft, you get, all these first rounders, and then usually like the second round and third rounders are kind of forgotten because they don't make the team. And sometimes even first rounders aren't making the team.
Yes. Yeah.
But now, yeah, yes, you have, or three additional teams that makes a big difference, but you get those two extra spots, which, it's huge. So players don't have to go overseas and then get called back over to the WNBA if they, sign a 7-day contract or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on just kind of that aspect of it too? I mean, there's a lot within this new CBA, but specifically with that area as well.
Yeah, we love to see it because I don't know how many times we've heard like hardship, during the
Yeah.
season. It's like someone's got to add a player to the roster, but you add someone who hasn't been in the system, who hasn't had a
Hmm.
chance to figure out what you're running on offense and defense. So now these players will grow with the team and be
Hmm.
called on in the event that they're needed. But it's also when you draw back the lens and think about how they can spend their off seasons now, I think we'll see fewer injuries.
Yeah.
I do believe that.
Hmm.
Whether it's, I mean, the one kind of year-round thing we can't do anything about is college into WNBA, right? Those players are going to be exhausted coming into their first season of W, but you have the option of resting now rather than playing year round. And so maybe we won't see as many injuries. I'd be interested to see how that
Hmm.
impacts the yearly cycle. But yeah, I mean, next to compensation, it was always about extra roster spots.
Hmm.
The fact that we have had first rounders not make a roster just seems insane to me.
Hmm.
But they often do need to develop, even though we see the gap closing between the readiness of a college player and the WNBA, that gap is definitely getting smaller. It still exists.
Hmm.
So yeah, that aspect of the CBA is I'm glad to see has changed. And they were creative, right? We weren't
Right.
able to add roster spots necessarily, but we're going to add these developmental positions.
Hmm.
So kind of help serves the same purpose.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's 30 extra spots right there. If
Yeah.
everybody's filling them, that's huge.
Yes.
But that's no, it's great to see. As somebody who I'm sure followed the CBA stuff closely, or was at least paying attention to the status of what's going on, the back and forth and everything that's going on. Was there a doubt? Did you ever have any doubts that the season was A, going to happen at all, or B, start on time?
I never had doubts that the season would not happen. Like I knew
Mm,
we were going to have a season, but I definitely thought that it may be delayed as I think it was the league set out a certain date where they were
hmm.
like, if we can't get this done by then we're going to start to have to look at pushing things back. I was like, oh boy.
Hmm.
Because the cadence of conversations that were being had at one point didn't seem like there was an urgency that met that deadline.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, are they actually going to be able to do this? And it came down to them staying the night, spending the night, late nights at the office to bang it out. But I knew there would be a season, but I'm just impressed that they were able to keep. I'm saying they kept the timeline intact. GMs and other folks would probably not agree with that
Yeah,
sentiment because, boy, what a lead up,
I
right?
know.
With expansion draft, college draft, free agency with a majority of the WNBA, players as free agents, like mind blowing.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you've got more money to work with than you expected, so your options look a little different too.
And
So,
you're trying to figure out the new CBA too at the same time.
yeah,
Like it's a
yeah,
completely different, layout of or structure of
yes,
of the CBA. But
correct.
that month of April, man, and I think a lot of we saw maybe at least from Minnesota's side or like the Lynx fan base, we saw more than the maybe the last 5 seasons or however many seasons we saw the fans riding that roller coaster quite a bit, and it's one extreme to the next because honestly it was a condensed basically 2-3 days of free agency when we're
Yeah.
used to it being 2 weeks, and you're seeing all these moves happen at once and everybody's kind of freaking out like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But that's what needed to happen, and I mean
Yeah.
I don't know how they did it, but I I don't envy
I
the GMs in that situation because they probably got zero sleep over that 2 week
yeah.
span, whatever it was.
I don't know how they did it either, but what I do believe that the W will benefit is the news cycle has been nonstop
Yes.
WNBA
Hmm.
since the CBA was signed. Like even before that, like, are we going to get a CBA? Then it's like, all right, we got a CBA. Let's look at draft. Let's look at all
Hmm.
these different, like the analysis were just coming hot and heavy, where in a normal year, free agency happens like February 1st, and then we kind of go dark again until we get to
Yeah.
the college draft. And so I do like that there was this energy leading into the season, which hopefully bodes well for ratings and ticket sales and such.
Yeah, I wonder too if that will impact the structure of the offseason moving forward. I know that there's been,
Mhm.
talks about potentially extending the season and stretching it out and making, the regular season longer.
Mhm.
But I wonder how that might change just the structure of how things are laid out, or maybe condensing things so that maybe you do have, a month of kind of that dead time, or kind of the slow time, and then everything just picks right back up. I'm curious to see how that might impact things moving forward.
Yeah, I think it would be much more manageable when 80% of the league is
Yeah,
not a free
that
agent.
is true. That is very true.
I think that would be, yeah, without that dynamic, I could see that being, yeah, more manageable for the
Hmm.
teams.
Yeah, I'm also curious not to go too far ahead to next offseason, but I'm curious to see what happens next offseason with the increase in, potentially increase in salary, and
Yeah.
how many, players that maybe signed 1 year deals, or if they have clauses in their contract to opt out of them, or whatever it may be. If they elect to do so, and then maybe they go, a player that signed a 1 year deal with a different team, maybe they go back to their old team and sign, cash in on whatever the new max number is or salary number might be.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good problem to have. It's
It is.
it's fun. I'm glad it's finally here. But
Yeah.
looking at the actual season now, with obviously the regular season as we're recording this, regular season tips off tomorrow, May 8th. But what are you or what are maybe some things that early on you're kind of looking at or are curious about heading into the 2026 season?
Yeah, I'm always first intrigued by teams that made more changes,
Hmm.
seeing if those changes pay off or not, or teams that maybe had a major star depart and are trying to plug it with a different fit, like what that looks like. And so my eyes are always drawn to a team like Dallas, right? Who
Hmm.
not only are you adding a number one pick, but you also, sorry, Minnesota, have a formidable front court with Atlanta Smith and Jess Shepard now
Hmm.
that completely changes the experience level and the talent level on that roster, adding to a backcourt that's already very good. So those are the teams that I'm interested in. Does Sabally work out in New York? And
Yeah.
how does Neca's fit back in LA go? Or is Angel Reese going to work out in Atlanta? Like that's automatically kind of where my mind goes to start the season. Obviously, Skylar in Chicago, that whole group is pretty much new.
Yeah.
And then just the rookies, like how they end up with their fit. Like how does it work? How long does it take them to get comfortable? Are they in the role that we thought that they would play? And how is maybe their game defining how their team is playing in terms of identity? So those are some of the headlines that definitely grab me right away as we start the season.
Hmm. I'm also curious to see if we have, any with the two expansion teams too, if we have a Golden State type of,
Mm,
season right away. I
great
mean,
point.
I could see maybe a team like Toronto having
Yeah.
a season like Golden State did last year where they got into the playoffs, they grabbed one of those last spots and had a I think a better year than many expected.
Yeah.
It will be, now that we'll have, it seems like a team every year here moving forward. It will be it's fun to see the kind of the shakeup of
Yeah.
the league too. Not only with what we saw in like free agency and with the new additions in the draft, but expansion drafts just kind of it changes course of multiple franchises and
Right.
it's fun. It's as a fan and as somebody who covers the league, it's a lot of fun to see the change and have things switch up a little bit too. But
Yeah, I do always have to give the Golden State fans a hard time though, because I was a broadcaster for a franchise that went to three finals in their first
hmm
4 or 5 years of existence in Atlanta.
yep.
Much easier to do when there was an East and West, I will say that. But
Yes.
so I'm like, okay, yep, they made the playoffs. But Atlanta, to me, as a budding franchise just starting out, with the exception of the Houston Comets, of
Hmm.
course, is one where I'm like, okay, Golden State, you did well, but
Yep.
yeah, you got
Pump the
some work.
brakes.
Yeah.
Uh, when it
Yeah.
comes I know we're kind of jumping ahead, but favorites for this season. Obviously it seems like we're headlined once again by Las Vegas and New York, but who are some favorites that you're thinking might be there in the end here this season?
Yeah, I definitely leading with Las Vegas. I'm
Hmm.
also really high on Indiana.
Hmm.
I think the world of Stephanie White, and to your point about expansion teams like Toronto, I believe that coaching is the great equalizer in this
Yeah.
league. You may not have that top tier roster, but if you've got a really good coach like a Sandy Brondello, like a Cheryl Reeve,
Hmm.
like a Stephanie White, then and when I say great coach, I'm saying like proven and just obviously, I think all three of them have been coach of the year in their careers.
Hmm.
And so Indiana really intrigues me. Healthy
Yeah, I was
with
just gonna say
Caitlin
that.
Clark, yeah, with Caitlin and Sophie, and obviously Aaliyah Boston, who had a fantastic season last year. I thought Lexi
Hmm.
Hull took steps forward, and I like the addition of Raven Johnson. When you think about how important Ari McDonald became to Indiana last year, you see the need for a Raven Johnson type player. And then I was actually in Puerto Rico at the World Cup qualifiers, so I saw how well Monique Billings played alongside Caitlin Clark in some pick and roll situations. And so that's another team that I would put in that conversation. LA on paper blows me away. There's a
Hmm.
few teams. I would say there's like those guys, like the Vegas's, New York, Indiana. Then I would also put Atlanta into that, right?
Hmm.
Because I don't think we give these teams enough credit for retaining the players that you had in this free agency frenzy. And Atlanta was one that was able to keep their pieces in place in addition to adding Angel Reese. So I would say the conversation is there. But then, yeah, what happens in LA? Like who
Hmm.
plays point guard? How does that work out? I already talked about Dallas. Chicago looks like wow on paper. What can we do?
Hmm.
Minnesota again because you have such an incredible coach in Cheryl Reeve, which again coaching is a great equalizer. So what can we do? As Fee gets back and gets healthy. I'm more concerned about Phoenix than I am, I would say, putting them firmly in any conversation right now. I think they just announced Sammy Whitcomb's going to miss some
Hmm.
time, I believe.
Yeah.
And so there's some pieces there in addition to losing Satu. But yeah, so that's kind of where kind of my tiers are right now. I need to look at my team list because I'm sure there's somebody I'm leaving out, but that's kind of the way I'm looking at it coming
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. Absolutely. When you kind of mentioned, you talked a little bit about the Lynx. Obviously, it's been a busy offseason. There's been quite a bit of turnover with this roster. It's a little bit of a new look, kind of fresh, international wave of talent that's come into this team. But what are your thoughts on, and obviously Nafisa Collier's recovery from her ankle injury, and she already had said that it'll probably be early June by the time she gets back to on-court activities. But what are your initial thoughts of the Lynx, and what do you think that they might be able to do this season?
Yeah, definitely Fee is a huge X factor in terms of
Hmm.
when she returns and how and when she gets back to being Fee.
Hmm.
But in just looking at the roster, first of all, I love the Maya Caldwell pickup. I
Yeah.
think that is going to end up being huge. I mean, Cheryl got a steal with that
Hmm.
exchange, which, their links are very good at that. But you know what you're going to get in Courtney Williams. You know what you're going to get with Kayla McBride. How does Olivia Miles kind of shift
Yeah.
what is done on both ends of the floor with this team?
Hmm.
She's the kind of player that can make everyone else's job much easier. And so I can see her setting up Fee, setting up McBride, setting up Courtney Williams for easy buckets and just taking a load off of everyone. I mean, this team has been stellar the last couple of years. And so, like, some ease would be, I
Hmm.
think, appreciated. And I can see her doing that. And just, I think she's going to bring an excitement. When Cheryl picked Olivia Miles, I started immediately thinking about the future of this organization and how, like, she can bring that pizzazz, that
Hmm.
excitement that every night must see television type play with her passing ability and her vision and just the highlights that she can make and create. And so that will be a big part of it. I think one other X factor for me is either Nia Coffey or Natasha Howard have to have a really good year.
Hmm.
Like one of those two players. And we know what Tosh has done in the past in her career. She's 12 years in, which, is not older, but I know she's had a lot of aches and pains in the last few years. And so what her health looks like. And then Nia Coffey has had this ceiling, but we just haven't seen her reach that true potential. And that's something that Cheryl's really good at. Like, can
Hmm.
she really get the most out of Nia Coffey? The last time we saw Dorka Juhas, she was playing very well. So we're welcoming her back in the fold. So this is a team that I can see playing much faster. Believe it or not, I can see the assist numbers going up. All right.
Hmm.
Like I do think with Olivia and the way the ball can move and pop with her, that's going to be a factor. But can your interior game give you enough rebounding and dominance? Losing Alana Smith, losing Jess Shepard, and even when having those guys, rebounding became a little bit of a factor in some ways for Minnesota. So um what does this front line really look like?
Right.
I think is the biggest question mark.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Minnesota, and I think just even just hearing from the fan base too a little bit, is there's a lot of uncertainty, and I
Yeah.
think that's where everyone's kind of hung up on is you have the international players, which not a lot of people are necessarily familiar with.
Yeah.
They aren't familiar with what they can do in the what maybe they did overseas. And then to your point, like, it's a lot of kind of what ifs with multiple players. If
Yeah.
they can put it all together and if they can do what we, think they're capable of, this team could be, they could surprise some people, I think, or at least,
Oh,
they would be all right. But
yeah.
um,
I'm definitely saying this is a playoff team. Like I
yeah,
think people have gotten a little carried away, assuming the Fisa Collier comes back. This is
hmm
definitely a playoff team. Like we didn't lose that much, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah,
But whether they'll be able to push their way into position to
yeah.
have a postseason run, I think is it's always on the top of mind of Lynx fans and
Yeah.
anyone around this organization because that's what you've done consistently. So
hmm
that's the bar.
Yeah, that's Cheryl Reeve even said this offseason. She's like, Lynx fans, when you don't win enough, or when you win, they're upset you didn't win enough, and when you don't win, they're upset you didn't win.
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
the beauty of Lynx fans.
Right.
But
Yep.
I'm really curious
Loyal.
about looking at Olivia Miles too. She reminds me like just when you were describing her a little bit, that sounds so much like Lindsay Whalen.
Yeah.
Just her,
Yeah.
you got to be watching her every night, and she can kind of have
Yeah.
these flashy passes and sets everybody else up well. And
Yep.
you can already tell, even though she's a rookie, that she's got a great head on her shoulders, and she's a great leader, and she's outgoing, and it seems like it checks a lot of the boxes, which is important, and that's something that the Lynx really haven't had that point guard since Lindsay Whalen. So you know how much Cheryl Reeve loves
Oh
having
my
that floor
goodness.
general out there. So
I know. It's really going to be about the dynamic with Cheryl and Olivia
yeah,
because Cheryl will go through some point guards.
oh
I mean,
yeah,
there's been some, there's
hmm
been a lot of point guard movement over time. And I know that that's probably the hardest position to play for
yeah,
Minnesota, if we're
oh
being
yeah,
honest,
yeah,
right?
hmm
And so how those two temperaments mesh with Cheryl and Olivia will be something I'll definitely be keeping my eye on as
yeah,
well.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, LaChina, I really do appreciate you taking some time. I appreciate our conversation, and once again, I want to congratulate you on the changes and the moves, and looking forward to this season. It's here already.
Thanks, Mitchell. I appreciate your kind words and I appreciate all the work you do. When
Well,
I
thank
want to
you.
know something about the links, I know right where to go. I don't hang out on X anymore, but I know I can get to Mitchell. I
Okay,
just go to my
okay.
people and
Yeah.
find my information. So thank you for your
Uh,
coverage and always thinking of me. And yeah, it should be a great 30th season of WNBA.
well, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Mitchell.
Thank you once again to LaChina for joining the podcast. As I mentioned before the recording, she's so fun to talk to. She is LaChina is awesome. We were talking before for the recording a little bit and just catching up on life and how things are going. And she's one of those people that you could sit down and talk to for hours. So I appreciate her taking some time out of her busy schedule. I know things are going to get very busy for her coming up here with the WNBA season and everything she has going on. But thank you again, LaChina, for taking the time to join the Hitting the Hardwood podcast here this week. I also want to give a shout out to our partners. We couldn't do this without our partners. If you or someone you know would like to partner with Hitting the Hardwood, you get inclusion in all of our four podcasts. As part of our Hitting the Hardwood network, you get included on our website. You get shout outs on social media. You get inclusion on our newsletter and everything in between. You can go check out our partners page on our website, hittingthehardwood.com/partners, to find who we're currently partnering with. And if you're interested or just want to look around, you can click on the PDF that's on there, the button that's at the top of the page, and see if there's something we can do. If there's something on there that, or if there isn't, if there's something that's not on there, excuse me, words are hard today. If there's something that's not on there that you think would be an opportunity, send us an email, reach out on social media, whatever it may be. We want to help you grow, and we want to help get your brand out there, as well as promoting women's basketball, the NBA, the WNBA, in every college game, everything in between. So we'll continue to do Wolves, Lynx, and Gophers coverage, and you and your business would be included in all of that. But our current partners, first and foremost, Pentz Homes, pentzhomes.com. Nate Pentz and the Pentz Homes team should be your go-to. If they're not, they should be your go-to destination if you're buying or selling a home. Nate is a very proud supporter of women's basketball, the NBA, the WNBA. He's always at well, for sure Lynx games, but he's always at Wolves and Lynx games, Gophers games. He's heavily involved in the community. So please go support Nate in the Pentz Homes teams, because he not only does he support Hitting the Hardwood, and without him, I don't know if we could do what we do. But he supports the community. He gives back to the community. And let's get back to him, because he does a lot for the community and just Minnesota in general. So shout out to Nate Pentz and the Pentz Homes team. We really appreciate everything that you guys do. Secondly, I want to another partner that we do have that I want to make sure get some time here is Firehawk Construction and Remodeling. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling. If you're doing any remodeling needs or any remodeling projects at your house, Isaac and the Firehawk team should be one of your first calls. They've been a longtime supporter of the Hitting the Hardwood network and just Hitting the Hardwood in general. So please check out Firehawk Construction and Remodeling. And they're located in Blaine, so local business. They serve the North Metro area, and they will do whatever you need. Construction remodeling needs, building remodeling. You should go check them out. If you want that new deck, summer's coming around. You want that new deck, you better be calling Isaac and his team. So you can check out how to email them, their website and phone number on our partners page on our website. And then our two sporting partners have been partners supporting us since day one, that being Better Edge and Homage. You can learn more, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, you can learn more by going to our partners page on our website, and go support them as well, because they've supported us, as I mentioned, since day one. So, all right. With that said, I really, really hope you enjoy the WNBA season. I'm really looking forward to it myself. Like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I can't believe it's actually here. It seems like we've waited 3 years, and it feels like it's been 3 minutes. But it's here. I'm excited. I hope you're excited too. And we'll watch this thing unfold together, and we'll be checking back in here throughout the season. So thank you again for listening. Thank you for your support, and we will talk to you guys next time.